What do you remember at some point along the river that something catching your group's attention?
Not specifically mine. I was just kind of hanging out with my friends on the tube, and we had stopped, and so I kind of asked why we were stopping. And I heard somebody mention something about a group looking uncomfortable. I hadn't got off right away, so.
Did you walk over after some other folks?
I did. I kind of was like, what's going on? And then I had told Janelle, like, let's kind of go over there and see what's going on.
And what do you remember everything sequentially perfectly, or is it
It's very choppy for me.
Okay. When you saw Madison get punched, can you explain that in as much details as you remember?
I barely really remember that part. I just remember him staring at us and then not saying anything and punching her, and I was just like shocked, like, oh my God. And that right after that, I literally remember being stabbed, and that's it, so.
With him punching her, do you remember any more details than that, like what hand he used
No.
or how the punch was?
Not at all.
And what else do you remember about you getting stabbed?
I just remember seeing Nick's face very blank and not lunging at me, but just kind of poking me, and I held my side and I was like, ow, like, Janelle, I think he punched me. That really hurt, like, and I looked down and I was bleeding out and holding my stomach, and it just, like, didn't feel real. Like, it was just a lot of shock, and from there I was walking around the river asking for help, like, just asking somebody to help me. I told Q that I felt like I was dying because I just was losing so much blood, and every time I'd walk, I just felt like I was getting weaker and weaker. So another group down the river had put me on a tube and kind of pushed me down to kind of get away from the scene. And then they were holding my side and just kind of keeping me awake. And then when the cops had showed up, they took me off of the tube and put me on the ground. And I just remember, like, Janelle coming over, asking me to stay awake, and the cops trying to ask me what my name was, and then just being put in the ambulance and going to the hospital.
And when you touched your side, do you remember feeling anything?
No, I thought I was punched or something. I didn't really know. I wasn't really paying attention, and it really didn't hurt. But when I looked down, I was instantly like, I believe I was holding my stomach. I think Janelle was coming to help me to hold my stomach and hold my side. And then just blood kind of going. And I didn't want to look down because it freaked me out. And I didn't really want to touch it either because I just didn't want to feel anything. So I kind of just barely held my hand on it. I just didn't want to feel it.
Where were you brought, if you remember, when you were brought to shore? Were you brought to the grass, the pavement?
I was laid right on the blacktop because I remember saying, oh my God, like, this burns my back. I remember the bridge, so I know it was right before, like, the bridge, but I don't know exactly where, but I know it was up right on the asphalt, I believe on the road that, like, the cops would drive on, and the ambulance and everything.
And were there officers or an officer there with you?
I believe I had one officer helping me kind of put pressure on my side and talking to me, yes.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
Anyone that's been marked as Exhibit 68. Is that... Is that a photo, or is that an image of you on the blacktop? Yeah. Should I move to admit and publish 68?
Any objection? 68 is received. Go ahead and publish.
I'm going to do it digitally. You can take it down. Ryhley, at some point were you transported away from the scene?
Yes.
Do you remember how?
An ambulance.
Were you brought to a hospital?
Yes.
And did you go immediately into surgery?
I believe so, yes. I just remember the ambulance telling me there's going to be a lot of people asking me questions. And I just remember being put on a bed, and that's literally all I remember. I mean, them asking me kind of, who you are, what's your name, what's your birth date, and I wouldn't answer, and I just kept saying I couldn't breathe. And that was the last thing I remember.
Until after surgery?
Yeah, I barely even remember waking up from surgery.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
Handed you what's been marked as Exhibit 33. What's that?
That is the incision where the doctors had to cut me up to put my stomach back in.
I'd move to admit and publish.
We approach.
Yes.
And Ryhley, what are we seeing in this photo?
That is, the bigger one is the stab wound, and the little one is from a chest tube.
And how about in this one?
This is the one where they had to cut me open to get my stomach put back in.
And so like here where the mouse is, that's from surgery.
That's all from surgery, and then the staples.
And then on over here,
Yep.
what's that?
The incision wound?
This stitch is right here. Is that the stab wound?
Yep, that's the stab wound.
The one we looked at?
Prior, yep.
Okay. Oh, and are you, in the photo, are you taking this in a mirror?
Yes,
So which side is the wound actually on?
on my left side.
So it's reversed in this photo?
Yes.
You can turn off the screen. And I think you testified that you remember him looking at you and then reaching over. Do you recall telling law enforcement you don't remember if you hit him or said something to make him angry?
I do remember saying that. I think I was trying to maybe find a reason why he did what he did to me. Or, after he had hit Maddie, if I had maybe put my hands on him because he had hit Maddie. I think I was just finding a reason.
From what you remember of being stabbed, do you have any memory of actually hitting him or saying anything?
I don't remember saying anything, hitting him, touching him, nothing.
There's a group of 6 teenage males, correct?
Yes,
And then there's Mr. Miu, correct?
correct.
And then there's you're in a group which we'll call the Carlson Cone group, is that fair?
Okay,
And there's about 11 people in that group, correct?
correct.
Of your group, the first 2 people that leave your group to join the other group are Madison Cohen and Dante Carlson, right?
Correct.
At some point, you go over and join Madison and Dante, correct?
Correct.
Prior to that, do you have a memory of what you observed?
I did not observe anything. I remember coming down the river and our tubes being stopped. And like I said, I just asked what was kind of going on, why we're being stopped. We literally just got back on our tubes. Why are we stopping again? And I heard, I don't know who, but somebody say a group looks uncomfortable.
Okay.
I did not hear anything coming from the back of us from the group. I didn't even see the group. I was not even paying attention to them. I was just hanging out with my friends.
And you didn't hear anybody call for help, correct?
I did not hear anything.
And I think what you told the police in one of your interviews is you even questioned some of your friends, like, why are we intervening?
Yeah, well, I kind of asked Janelle, like, what's going on? What are they doing? And
Why?
then I was like, let's just get up and kind of go see.
Okay. So at some point, you and Janelle and Gabby, you're the next 3 people that joined Madison and Dante, is that right?
I'm not sure if Gabby came with us, but Janelle and I for sure did.
Okay. And do you remember, there was a time when you were walking over there, do you remember Nick Miu standing up and looking upriver and waving his hand?
I do not.
And do you remember then that as soon as that got done happening, Madison Cohn turned to you and Janelle, and she waved her arm to have you guys come over?
I don't remember that, but maybe that is why we got up.
Does that make sense to you, why you went there? Is because Madison's like,
yes.
come on over here, right?
Yeah,
And then you went over, correct?
yes,
And then there were times that we've seen in the video where you're standing in front of Mr. Miu, correct?
correct.
Prior to your getting there, would it be fair to say that Madison Cohn was yelling at Mr. Miu?
I mean, I didn't hear, like I said, I didn't hear anything. I had no idea the scene.
Did you see her standing in his space?
No, until I got over there, yes,
Once you got over there, you then saw her standing in his space.
yes.
And you then saw her, and probably heard her, yelling at him, correct?
Yeah, I can't really, like I said, I don't make out what she said specifically, but yes,
So you don't know the content, but you know the volume was high.
yes,
And would it be fair to say that she was in his face?
yes,
And at some point, as we saw in there, you went up and stood next to Madison, essentially right in front of Mr. Miu as well, correct?
correct.
And Dante was, if you're here, Madison's next to you, Dante's over in this area, fair to say?
I did not remember Dante being even around us.
Okay.
I just remember it being Maddie and I, and then Janelle.
Okay. And you remember, as we saw on the screen, that when you're standing there, essentially you weren't asking questions, right?
I don't think I asked questions.
Yeah.
I might have yelled, the same things they were yelling, but I
Sure.
don't remember.
And so while you went over there with the intent to figure out what was going on, as soon as you got there and you saw Maddie doing something, you basically joined her, right?
I think that's exactly what I did, yes.
You just, whatever my friend is doing, I'm going to join her and do the same thing, correct?
Not just Maddie, but everybody else kind of yelling. I think maybe I was listening to everybody else yelling, and I just kind of
Join the crowd.
joined the crowd, yeah.
Yep.
Keep watching CBS News Minnesota for continuing coverage.